Hey there, everyone. Paradise Gamer 13 here, and well, I was uh, I was not quite prepared to have to have this kind of reaction, I guess. It's funny because I actually yesterday. Um, I'm hoping well, maybe this will go up the day after the presentation, but um, the the evening of the 23rd, I guess, so the day before the presentation came out, I was like, oh, I should kind of, I was thinking of some ideas for, what I thought that they were going to for sure announce either Gen 4 remake or a new Let's Go game or something like that, and I was going to, get ready to pat myself on the back and talk about how great of a, I'm basically a psychic Pokemon. And of course, we get to today, and I I could not have possibly been like I basically deserve that because as arrogant as I was, and I shouldn't have let my ego get to me quite so much, I guess. But so that was an interesting presentation. I don't want to. So I'm sure if you go in and you look up, Pokemon Unite reactions or something like that, you're probably going to get at least the top 10 videos just without even checking myself are probably like, oh, this is terrible. This is actually, it's funny because I was rewatching the trailer for it, and some of the the recommended videos on the side are kind of like, oh, what happened here kind of stuff. I don't want to, hopefully maybe I could be a little bit more of a positive beacon here for you guys. I will comment on my thoughts on the reveal and the handling of the situation, I guess, a little bit first here at the beginning. But I will, the rest of the video, I kind of want to focus a little bit more on the gameplay itself. So I guess to kind of address the elephant in the room here, there, I just don't think that it was probably handled the best by the Pokemon Company. I know what they were getting at, so to provide some perspective, and I'm not on employed by the Pokemon Company, so I guess I don't know this for sure. But looking at it and kind of putting all the pieces that are here together, maybe I'm just being a bit conspiratorial, but it seems like this is all a big push for the Pokemon Company to get a foothold and primarily in China, right? So they bring in Tencent, which is obviously a big Chinese company in the game industry, and they are they've gone with a genre that is particularly popular in the Asian region, and in hindsight, so the issue that I think most people have obviously is, last week they announced a few other mobile games, and nobody really said anything because then they dropped the new Pokemon Snap on us, and then at the end they were like, hey, disregarding Pokemon Snap, we've got a big reveal for you guys next week. And so I think most people, myself included obviously, kind of got into this, worked up into this mindset, in this big echo chamber of it's going to be Gen 4 remakes. The timing for it matches up with, the historic trends, sort of, I think. And, basically all signs seem to point to something, some kind of mainline remake or a Let's Go game, which is kind of, I don't know that I would quite call it, on par with the mainline titles, but it's kind of up there. It wouldn't surprise me, I guess, if that's what they had announced. But obviously the Pokemon Company had slightly different plans, and I almost wonder if Tencent, because obviously they had a pretty big presence there throughout this presentation. Well, mainly at the beginning, I guess. And I almost wonder if I don't know if maybe they approached the Pokemon Company about making this kind of game, or maybe the Pokemon Company approached them. But somehow it seems to be worked out that they're like, we want to make this special. We want to really grab the attention of the market that we're trying to appeal to here. And so I'm guessing, obviously, I saw something earlier that the trailer, I think, is supposedly, well, the thing I saw said the most disliked, or as far as the number of dislikes to likes ratio on YouTube for a Nintendo game or a Nintendo related video. Technically, though, it's not on Nintendo's channel, so I guess if you want to go for a technicality, it's on the Pokemon's channel. But regardless, the social media reaction hasn't been particularly positive. Because I don't want to dwell on this too much. I don't want to like rail on this for more than like 5 minutes, which I think I'm kind of approaching that standpoint. But you know, I certainly understand people's frustrations with the delivery on this, and I just think I think in some ways, looking at it from, you know, a Westerner's perspective, the Pokemon Company did seem to drop the ball on how they handled this. But you know, I bet maybe and obviously, if there's any, you know, viewers in the Asian market who are watching this video, who happen to come across this video, which I mean, I'm obviously pretty obscure, but if you happen to come across this video, you'll feel free to comment on, like, you know, I would love to hear your thoughts on, you know, this reveal, and, you know, is the hype, you know, much more significant, I guess, in that realm of the world. So that aside, now that I've kind of gotten out of the way, to kind of talk about the game itself. So Pokemon Unite. So first of all, when they showed the trailer originally, so it was I wasn't sure. Definitely seemed to not be going in the direction, like I said, that I initially thought it would. You know, they were talking about like bringing people together. Well, the very first thing that they showed was like somebody reaching down and grabbing a Pokemon trade, like a deck of Pokemon trading cards, and I about fell out of my chair right there, because I was like, I was like, you know, this may not be a Gen 4 remake or whatever, but I was like, they're going to announce a new Pokemon trading card video game. Which, if you've just stumbled across this video, you probably, you know, may not be very familiar with my channel, but I've done playthroughs actually of the first trading card game on the Game Boy, and then the second one as well. And it's a little self-advertisement there, but the only reason why I bring that up is because I absolutely love those games for some like irrational reason. I mean, they're like, honestly, they're like a total blast. The first one is available, I think, on the Virtual Console. The second one, unfortunately, is Japanese only. I played through like an English translated fan patch of it, but I thought, you know, this is going to be totally out of left field. And like that, I was like, because in my opinion, something like that would also qualify as a big reveal, because it's, you know, seemingly something that we would never get a sequel. Of course, you could argue that for Pokemon Snap as well, because they've probably been defunct franchise, you know, defunct side, you know, spin-offs for almost the same amount of time. I'm not exactly sure when the second trading card game came out, but regardless. That lasted for about, you know, half a second there until I realized that they were kind of going more of like the history of Pokemon and like the different aspects of it, and then, you know, bringing people together and people interacting over time and stuff. And so again, I think this kind of goes back to, I'm not sure currently how much of a presence Pokemon has in China specifically. Maybe, you know, I guess I say China because I think of Tencent since they're the developer, but I guess it's probably kind of like, you know, that whole Asian region in general is probably the market that they're mainly trying to hit, you know, including Japan, obviously, which, you know, where they're based out of. But I think that's kind of why they did that, like, retrospective, you know, this is what Pokemon has been and leading up to the ultimate reveal of Pokemon Unite. Which that's interesting. It's funny because, like, for a split second too, I kind of had flashbacks to. It seems like people have been like eternally clamoring for some kind of Pokemon MMO, and I know there's been like fan games and stuff like that out there, but I just think it's funny that like that seemed to almost be what they were going for with Unite. You know, you think of, you know, some kind of massive multiplayer experience, and ultimately, I guess, you know, the MOBA, it's a team related, you know, much more team specific than, I guess, like the mainline Pokemon games. You know, the main Pokemon games, yeah, you could do like a double battle with your friends or whatever, maybe in some games, but it's not. It's mostly competitive one-on-one type stuff, right? But and then I'm not gonna lie, like my mind was just racing so much through this trailer, because I was, like I said, I was caught completely off guard. And so like another thought I had too was like, I thought, wow, you know, Pokemon is coming to PC. That's unprecedented. As soon as I realized it was a MOBA title, and then it kind of hit me. I was like, okay, that's obviously not the case. Um, it's obviously it's Switch and a mobile title, but I guess that's something that struck me as a little odd, is because MOBAs, I feel, are they're obviously not exclusively on PC, because I'm pretty sure I've seen at least one or two on like PlayStation and stuff, but it's definitely a PC heavy genre. Just like the way you play it, the community, so on and so forth. So it's interesting. I mean, I guess again, I know there's MOBAs on like mobile titles as well in general, but it was just very interesting. And then we obviously get to see a little kind of preview of the gameplay by means of this competition. And so that was also another interesting thing. And again, I think the issue is, so if you've been on any kind of like Western social media, like Reddit or even YouTube, I guess, or at least the I guess not so much the Pokemon channel trailer and stuff, because I think they've got comments disabled on. They had comments disabled on the last one too, so I think I don't think it's just for this. I think they do this in general, but I'm talking about like some of like the other content creators and stuff. Obviously, like you probably might see this and think like, who were the people that they invited to this competition? Because to me, like, so the guy that was like the Pokken tournament champion or participant or whatever, like that makes sense, because I mean obviously I figured, I was like, he was probably going to be the best one, I would imagine, because obviously fighting games are different than MOBAs, but he has competitive gaming experience, whereas they had a singer, I think. Did I get that right? The first person, I didn't recognize her, I must admit. The second one was really, I think his name was Ryogo. And I am the absolute last person to talk about relevancy here, because I'm sure he probably has a much like multiple. He has a lot more probably followers than I do, but like the way they introduced him was like a riddle solving content creator, and I'm like, what exactly does that mean? I'm not sure if does he make videos of himself solving riddles? Is this related to Pokemon at all? Is this related to MOBAs? It was just really quaint, but it was interesting, I guess. And then they had I think they had another content creator that like makes videos and stuff. They had a voice actress, which I thought, of all the people, I thought I recognized her. Her name looks very familiar for some reason. And I thought she was the one that voiced Pikachu, but I was way off on that. So, because I looked her up right before I started recording this, and it was kind of strange, because she actually didn't have that many like video game credits. She was like in the most recent Digimon games, which I haven't played, but those were really the only ones I thought like maybe I would have heard. But even then, I don't know. Like I thought maybe she was probably voiced a character in like some other, like maybe Fire Emblem Heroes or something else that I've played, or Pokemon Masters, but I couldn't really find anything, so I'm not 100% sure, admittedly, who she was either. But then I felt really bad, because obviously, so all those people, I'm sure they, if you're in Japan, you probably, I would guess, at least have a better chance of knowing who they are than someone like me on the other side of the world, who's completely out of touch with that society. But then they show like the rest of the team was like, oh yeah, and then here's also like 4 people from the Pokemon Company, but they're apparently not important, because we're just going to shove them all on screen at once. And then they're like, hi, and then like before they even finish saying hi, they're like already off, like, okay, we're starting the gameplay. So I legitimately felt pretty bad for them, because it's like, hey, they should get a little limelight too, just because they're not the big name superstars. I mean, I didn't know, I think David was one of their names and stuff like that. I don't know him any better than some of the other, I guess you would say celebrities that they had included in there. But it was very interesting. Of course, and then Mr. Ishihara participated as well, which I'm pretty sure they definitely rigged that game to let him win. I think he won, right? I just watched it right before I was recording this, and I was like, I better make sure I know, and I'm pretty sure that's the case, but I must have spaced out a little bit. I mean, it's an interesting concept. So you go and you try to capture these platforms, and I mean, it is kind of. I should say, I don't have a whole lot of familiarity with MOBAs in general. I haven't even played. I know like League of Legends is the big, and Dota 2 are like probably the two biggest, I would guess, maybe. At least in the West. I'm not sure, internationally, but I've never played either of those. So it's funny because I once downloaded League of Legends. So originally my only experience with MOBAs is a game called Smite, which I loved because I loved the third-person camera angle that they use. Because I guess that's the main. I don't want to say that's the main turnoff, but I just don't like the Pokemon Unite uses the same kind of camera angle where it's like this overhead view, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. It looks cooler with like in Smite, like, and then, like, honestly, if this game had like that same perspective and was like a little bit more intense and maybe more, I don't want to say gritty, but I don't know, had a little bit more to it, I guess. At least I think I would be more excited for it, even though again I don't really play MOBAs, so I feel kind of bad because I know a lot of people are immediately writing this game off, and I try to be like, don't judge a game before it comes out, kind of, and I will download this. I downloaded, I'm not sure which video will go up first, if this video will go up first, or if I did a video on the Pokemon Cafe game that came out today as well. It's taking a little bit longer to process than what I had originally planned, so maybe that one might actually end up coming out after this video, but we'll see. But I'll download Pokemon Unite. So that's the thing, is that, at least to me, obviously there's still time spent as a factor that you might want to consider, but to me it doesn't cost anything, so I'm like, of course I'm going to try it. I'll see what it's like. I think it'll be kind of fun, but again, I don't really play MOBAs, so I'm sure I'll probably pick it up and I'll be like, it's a free game, so I'll play it for an hour or something, and then probably put it back on the metaphorical shelf anyway. But I feel like it's definitely something, especially because I'm not very familiar with MOBAs. Like, I see things on the trailer, but I don't really, I don't immediately say like, oh, that's very unique to, that's a great aspect of gameplay that other MOBAs don't have, or something like that. I'm assuming most other MOBAs don't have like Pokemon in them. That's probably the most obvious one. But I don't know. I mean, it looked kind of interesting. You got Pokemon evolving. I thought it was interesting that they did point out that there's no type advantages and disadvantages, which it makes sense, I guess. I mean, they didn't have it in like Pokken either, because I mean, honestly, in these kinds of like competitive games, I guess you can't really, in order to like have proper balance of the different Pokemon available that you can choose from. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't really have a whole lot else to say, I guess. So it's, I'll have to see. I don't even remember. I don't think they announced a release date or anything. Maybe I didn't really get the impression that it's going to be like Pokemon Cafe, and then we wake up tomorrow and they're like, well, the game's out, So, but I don't know exactly when it'll come out. So I guess I'll keep an eye out for that. And like I said, I'll make a video on it. That way, hopefully you guys can kind of like, if you want, take a look and see what I do, and I'm gonna be terrible at it, I'm sure. So don't necessarily judge it entirely on me. Be like, well, there's only the most basic gameplay experience. Like, well, some of it may be user error. So we'll see. Like I said, I mean, am I let down that it wasn't a Gen 4 remake? Sort of. I mean, part of me I think wasn't full. I mean, I know I predicted that, but I just kind of got wrapped up into the hype of it. I would not have predicted that if they hadn't like dropped the whole "we've got a big teaser for you," right? For in the following presentation. But I'm sure it'll happen eventually. In fact, actually, here's my last prediction for you, and obviously, I'm 0 for 1 essentially. So maybe don't take this to heart. But I was immediately reminded of when Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon came out, or well, not when they came out, but when they were announced. I vaguely remember, and I don't remember exactly how the situation played out, but it was something kind of similar where like the Pokemon company was like, hey, we've got a game we're working on, and then people were so hyped. They're like, Gen 4 remakes. They were like, this could be Pokemon Stars. This could be the next generation of Pokemon. But everybody was predicting it to be something on the Switch. And obviously those games ended up being announced for the 3DS. And I remember people were, I don't think quite as outraged as they are over this game, but there was a lot of like, oh, why would you put that on a dying console and stuff like that. And of course then the Pokemon Company, like probably within a week I think it was, maybe I'm not remembering the timeline quite correctly, but I feel like pretty shortly after that they came out and were, I think it was either Ishihara or Mr. Masuda. One of them came out and was like, by the way, guys, we're working on a big Pokemon like mainline title. It ended up being the Let's Go games, but like we're working on like a mainline title for the Switch. So don't read too much into the fact that we're releasing one last game for the 3DS. We're transitioning. So I'll be curious to see if, especially since obviously this announcement was so specifically directed at this new market, I do kind of wonder if they will kind of acknowledge this backlash again. And I mean, obviously there's certainly no guarantee of it, but they might, if there is something in the works, I could see them potentially coming out in a few days and being like, well, by the way, we couldn't really show this because this is super early on in development, but we're working on remakes of the Gen 4 games. So maybe, like I said, I don't want to get people's hopes up too much, but if you want to be optimistic, then give it a few days. Just kind of watch the Pokemon news, I guess, over the next few days, and maybe we'll hear something else. So in the meantime, I would really appreciate to hear your guys' thoughts, but please try to say, I know this is a very heated time. Try to stay obviously as civil as possible, and obviously if you're disappointed, feel free to say that, but at the same time, obviously I'm sure there's a lot of mixed opinions out there right now, so I look forward quite thoroughly to reading them. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed, and have a great day, and thanks again for watching.